This is Jasmine Burrows, and I'm going to be presenting Chapter 19 on quick breads. So quick breads consist of four main ingredients. There's flour, a liquid, salt, and a leavening agent. The flour is typically an all-purpose flour, or you can use a cake flour for sweeter breads. The liquid is a milk. It can also be a fat, eggs, or sugar, again if you're making sweet breads. And then the fat is typically butter or margarine. Quick breads are called quick because they're baked immediately after all the ingredients are mixed. There's no waiting as with yeast breads, and these quick breads are leavened through baking with air, steam, or carbon dioxide through the action of baking soda or baking powder. The two most important considerations when baking quick breads is the consistency of the batter and the cooking temperature. So there's three types of batters. There's a thin pour batter, a thick drop batter, and a dough. The thin pour batters are used to make crepes, pancakes, waffles, and popovers, and the thick drop batters can be used to make muffins, cornbread, hush puppies, dumplings, and some coffee cakes. The dough, which is briefly kneaded, is used to make unleavened breads, biscuits, and scones. I'm going to go over the muffin method because it is the basic method of preparing many quick breads, and it consists of 3 steps. First, you sift your dry ingredients in one bowl. Then in a separate bowl, you'll mix your moist ingredients like your milk, your eggs, and your sugar. Then you'll combine both ingredients, the wet and dry, in one bowl with minimal stirring. You really want to avoid over stirring, or if it's a dough, over kneading, because it'll create too much gluten, which causes the finished bread product to be dense and heavy. So for most quick breads, once the dough is mixed, your pans are greased. You'll fill your pans and then you'll pop them in the oven between 350 and 450 degrees Fahrenheit. And then when you think the bread is done, you see if it passes the toothpick test. And that's basically inserting a toothpick in the center of the bread. If it comes out clean with no batter attached to it, then it's done. But if it comes out with batter attached to it, you need to put it back in the oven to cook some more. Similar to all baked goods, additives can be used in quick breads as well. So there are preservatives which are used to inhibit mold growth. That includes calcium propionate, sodium diacetate, sorbic acid, and corn syrup. Now, corn syrup can also double as a sweetener as well as sucrose. Tartaric acids are added to control the pH of the breads, and polysorbates act as emulsifiers to help the ingredients mix well. Now, the first type of batter with quick breads is a pour batter, and these are called pour batters because they contain enough fluid to allow the batter to pour, which is about 2/3 to 1 cup of water for every cup of batter. When making pancakes, the muffin method is used to mix the batter, but too much stirring can result in dense pancakes from the loss of the carbon dioxide gas in the batter. Now, when you make pancakes, you want to heat your pan or your griddle. You'll lightly grease your pan, and then you'll pour about 1/4 cup of batter per pancake. When the bubbles start to appear over most of the pancake, that's when it is ready to be flipped. If you're going to add fruit or chocolate chips or anything to your pancake, you would add it now and then flip your pancake over. And after you flip it, do not press the pancake down with the spatula or flip the pancake more than once. With crepes, these are French for a thin pancake that are used to wrap other ingredients. They can have sweet fillings or they can have savory fillings like meat and vegetables. So crepes are more thin than pancakes, and when making these, it's best to make the batter in advance so that it can sit for hours or overnight, and that way the flour can absorb all the liquid in the batter. After the batter has sat, it can be thinned out with your milk. Similar to making a pancake, you'll heat your pan, lightly brush it with butter, and then pour your batter in the pan. With crepes, if bubbles form while the crepe is cooking, the batter is too thin, so you'll want to add more flour to the batter. But if the batter is too thick to pour, more milk should be added to thin the batter out. And your crepes will be done when they're golden brown on the bottom. Pour batters are also used to make waffles and popovers. Waffle batter is similar to pancake batter, but it contains more fat. You can also fold in a beaten egg white to add extra crispness and lightness to your waffle. So you'll lightly grease your waffle iron with vegetable spray and heat it to its appropriate temperature. Then you'll pour your waffle batter into the middle of the waffle iron until it's about 2/3 full. You'll close the cover and then cook the waffle for about 5 minutes or until steam has stopped escaping from the waffle iron. The waffle is going to be done when it's golden brown, crisp, and tender. Now, popovers are a puffy bread product that look like an oversized tall muffin. These are made from one of the thinnest of all quick bread batters, so the liquid to flour ratio is about 1:1. I've included 2 pictures, one of what the popover cups look like and how full they should be when you fill them with your batter. And then the second picture shows what a finished product of a popover looks like. Now with popovers, you're going to add at least 2 eggs per cup of flour because for popovers, the gluten doesn't develop in the batter because there's so much liquid. So the popovers rely on protein coagulation and starch gelatinization for their structure. So the egg proteins in the eggs provide structure, while the fat, which can come from the egg yolk, makes the popovers tender. Lack of protein in a popover will make it fail to expand, but too much fat or too much water will weaken the popover structure and cause them to fall flat. So it's really important when you're making popovers to pay attention to the ingredients and the amounts, and also paying attention to the popover when it's baking and making sure you don't open the oven too soon or else your popover will fall flat as well. Drop batters do not contain as much liquid as pour batters. They have about 1/2 cup to 3/4 cups of water per cup of flour. Drop batters are used to make muffins, muffin breads, coffee cakes, and dumplings. So with drop batters, some small lumps in the batter are desirable. A smooth batter means that overmixing has occurred and that too much gluten has developed. Overmixing creates muffins with a smooth peak top and an interior that's tough and has a lot of tunnels. Now, while overmixing is an issue, you also want to avoid undermixing. Now, undermixing leaves lumps that are too large, indicating that insufficient gluten development has occurred, and it results in crumbly muffins that fall apart. Insufficient mixing also leaves baking powder that's incompletely moistened, which results in low volume muffins. In addition to over and under mixing, you also want to watch for greasing the pan too much, especially with muffins. You only want to grease the bottom of the muffin pan because the ungreased sides give the dough traction as it's rising, allowing the muffins to rise higher. So don't grease the sides of the muffin pan. Some quick breads are made from doughs that are briefly kneaded. Doughs can be either firm or soft depending on the amount of water that's added to each cup of flour. It can range from an 1/8 cup of water to a 1/3 cup of water per cup of flour. So unleavened breads are the world's oldest and easiest breads to prepare, and sometimes they're called flatbreads, but they include tortillas, chapatis, crisp flatbreads, and matzos. So true unleavened breads are leavened by steam rather than any other agent, and flatbreads can be steamed, oven or skillet baked, fried, grilled, or baked underneath the hot desert sand. And throughout the world, unleavened breads appear in different forms. There's tortillas and tacos in Central and South America, chapatis in India, Pakistan, and Iran, crisp flatbreads in Sweden and other Scandinavian countries, and matzo in Israel. Flatbreads represent a major form of wheat consumption in many Middle Eastern and North African countries. Quick breads also include doughs that are leavened either with baking powder or baking soda. These doughs include biscuits, scones, and crackers. So biscuit dough contains flour, fat, milk, baking powder, and salt. Formerly, lard was usually the fat of choice, but butter may also be used, and margarine or hydrogenated vegetable shortening are common choices. The dough for biscuits is less sticky than muffin batter because the ratio of flour to milk is 3:1. Now with scones, these contain eggs and milk or cream, which makes them richer than ordinary biscuits. Their flavor also differs from biscuits because they often contain pieces of dried fruits such as raisins, cranberries, blueberries, apples, apricots, and other fruits. And they're baked at about the same temperature and for the same length of time as biscuits. Now, crackers may or may not be leavened. Usually they are chemically leavened with baking soda or powder. But holes are pricked into cracker dough to prevent air pockets from forming and bursting during baking. And cracker dough develops a strong gluten network, so the protein content and quality of the dough are extremely important in creating the right texture for crackers. In summary, the basic ingredients of any bread are flour and a liquid or water, possibly salt and a leavening agent such as baking soda or baking powder. The muffin method is the basic method of preparing many quick breads and consists of 3 steps. Step 1 is to sift the dry ingredients. Step 2 is to combine the moist ingredients in a separate bowl. And step 3 is to stir the dry and moist ingredients together with only a few strokes. For the variety of quick breads, the ratio of flour to liquid determines whether the mixture is a pour batter, a drop batter, or a dough. And when mixing quick bread batters, remember when quick bread dough must be kneaded or the batter must be mixed, it is very brief and only consists of about 10 strokes. Over kneading or over mixing causes too much gluten, which will cause the finished bread to be dense and heavy. And here are the references for this slideshow.